but kind of outright hostility, right? Your own network has been running absolutely, lunatic theories about this being some kind of conspiracy between Van Jones, Code Pink, Hamas, and the Muslim Brotherhood.
What? I haven't seen any of that on this network.
Really? But maybe you guys don't watch.
Yeah, but really, but the real, no. Apparently you didn't watch me. Now, I haven't said Van Jones. I mean, Van Jones has tweeted about this, but I haven't said this is a Van Jones conspiracy. I used Van Jones the other night and his storm to show you one thing that he clearly wrote about, and I asked you to read it. I asked you, Reclaiming Revolution. This is a final report done by the Van Jones Group Storm in Oakland, California. There were only 13 members. There were 14 members. One of them was Van Jones. We don't have Van Jones' fingerprints on this, but this is his group, and it fell apart. And this is the final paper of saying, we learned a lot of lessons. Why did this group fall apart? It was militant communist. It was calling for revolution. And they said, we learned an awful lot of things. And one of the things they learned was you couldn't get enough revolutionaries. You couldn't get enough militant revolutionaries. And so they said, in the report, they said we had to change our tactics and grow our own militant revolutionaries. In the report, it talks about that's how we went from Cop Watch in Oakland, California. Cop Watch became the Ella Baker Center because that could be more covert. Now, that's the way I've explained it. And for anybody who's half listening, or if you want to just watch the audio clips on, from Media Matters, you go ahead and do that. If your friends want to remain, ignorant, that's fine. We're not talking about the difference between Republicans and Democrats. We are talking about the end of the Western way of life if we don't pay attention. Now, I'm sorry that I'm the guy who was ringing the bell in 1999 about Osama bin Laden. I'm sorry that I am the bearer of bad news. But you listen to the people who say they want to kill you. When I say that there's a caliphate, it is a desire of the Islamic extremists in the Middle East, that's not a conspiracy theory. Look up the words of Ahmadinejad. Look up the words of Khomeini and Khamenei. Look up the words of Osama bin Laden. Look up the words of the Wahhabists in Saudi Arabia. Look up the words of the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, Hezbollah. Look up their own words. They want a caliphate. What is a caliphate? Look it up. Calipate. Caliphate. Look it up. Look also for history of caliphate. That is what the Crusades were about. The Crusades, they were trying to do a caliphate, if you will, for Jesus. And the Muslims were doing a caliphate for Muhammad. That is the story of the crusade. So don't talk to me about crazy conspiracy theories. I want the left to know. I plant my flag in this soil. If I'm wrong, so be it. So be it. Then I am wrong. And you can discredit me all you want for the end of time. But I'm telling you, I'm not wrong on this one. And there are 3 points that I want to make sure are very clear. This is what I'm telling you. These are the things that I believe. 1, groups from the hardcore socialist and communist left and extreme Islam will work together because they are both a common enemy of Israel and the Jew. 2, groups from the hardcore socialist and communist left and extreme Islam will work together because they are the common enemy of capitalism and the Western way of life. 3. Groups from the hardcore socialist and communist left and extreme Islam will work together to overturn relatively stable countries because in the status quo, they are both ostracized from power and the mainstream in most of the world. You got it? Islam wants a caliphate. Communists want a communist New World Order. They'll work together and they'll destabilize because they both want chaos. Period. Now, I'm sorry that seems so crazy to the left. But of course it does. What is it about the Ella Baker Center and the Cop Watch and Van Jones saying and reclaiming revolution? Oh, yeah, that's right. You can't come out and say that you're a Marxist. You can't come out and say you're calling for revolution. You can't do that. Because if you do that, they found in Storm that it falls apart and nobody wants to be a part of it. So what they have to do is become something that they're not. At the top of the hour, I'm going to tell you about the new constitutional amendment in Brazil. If this isn't exactly what I've been telling you about, if this isn't exactly the example of what Van Jones says, you want to have a revolution? I got it for you. I'll show you how to do it. We'll tell you at the top of the hour. But go ahead. Leftists, bring it on. Bring it on. I read the newspapers, and I think anybody who has been telling their friends what we've discovered together on these shows, on radio and television, anybody who has done their own homework and hasn't been as quick at the mouth as I have been, and you were more tempered, your credibility must be unbelievably high with your friends. Because how many times do we have to say things here? How many times do you have to tell your friends and them to come true? I mean, just look at the food prices. How many, everyone, no, food prices aren't going to be a problem. Everyone said it. Food prices aren't going to be a problem. Look out, gang, because we haven't even started. In America, it hasn't even begun. It hasn't even begun. We told you in January food prices would start to become a problem worldwide. Remember that? We told you that, in September, October? That January, I told you before the election, look out, because the world's about to change. And come in January, things are going to heat up and change. Little did I know that, and I'm foolish for not thinking of the Middle East. That's the way to destabilize the entire world. But here it is. Now, your friends have a choice. They can either wake up, or it's time for you to stop trying to convince them. Because I don't really care anymore. And neither should you. I'd love to have them join us in the real world and wake up. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Go ahead. Let them have their little dream world. Let them. It's insane. And the act of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. How many times do you have to be right with your friends? Stop. It's the act of insanity. Because you're living in an insane world where nothing makes sense. Because the truth has no agenda. But it seems almost everyone else does. You just keep your agenda. Man's freedom. The truth. God. Your family. your neighbors. You just keep those things as your agenda. Anything that's true, keep as your agenda. Everything else will burn itself out. It'll just burn itself down to the ground. You stand in the blaze, and the fire won't hurt you, but you better be standing in the truth.
Not an Insider Extreme member yet? What are you waiting for? Sign up today at glenbeck.com/extreme.